If you enjoy deep dives into hidden histories and secret conspiracies, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you never miss our next upload. Your support helps us keep uncovering the unseen forces shaping our world. Now, lean in close and let me guide you into the shadows of Brookridge, where a whisper in the dark becomes an echo of something far more dangerous. In the heart of Brookridge, a town known for its friendly baker and unbarred doors, four strangers unknowingly orbit the same source of mystery. There's Alex, the young naturalist whose fascination with fungi has taught him to listen for life in the silence. And tonight, he hears a vibration in the air no mushroom could make. Maya, the relentless hacker, has spent nights lurking in forgotten forums, and tonight she uncovers a fragment of code labeled Aurora Protocol, buried deep in discarded server logs. Lucas, the ex-military agent, carries memory shards of experimental enhanced perception. And tonight, those shards pulse with warning. And Helena, the art history student, inherited a dusty journal covered in symbols that pulse as if freshly inked. Symbols that once belonged to a long-dead regime, but now seem alive. Their paths converge beneath the old church on First Avenue, where an unmarked door leads down into a crypt sealed for decades. The air grows colder as they descend, and Alex's ancient valve radio crackles to life with more than static. He turns the tuning knob until a low chant in archaic German slices through the hiss, each syllable rolled like a ritual invocation. Maya's screen glows with lines of code. Stargate protocol detected. Montauk reference found. Lucas's breath catches as his vision blurs, and he feels himself both here and someplace above, witnessing cloaked figures moving across a sunlit pasture. Helena's trembling fingers trace a map drawn on brittle pages, ley lines stretching out to hidden sites of wartime experiments. They stand in a circle of flickering lamplight, each heartbeat pounding in unison, as the chant fades into a low hum that reverberates through the stone walls. Alex lets the radio fall silent, but the hum remains, as if the crypt itself is alive with memory. Maya steps forward, voice hushed but urgent. They're watching us. The same people who once tested the Aurora Protocol want to reclaim their power. Lucas's eyes narrow as he grips the ancient radio like a gun. I've felt this before, in barracks, in Black Ops briefings. They've perfected more than mind control. They've learned to weaponize belief. Helena closes the journal with a soft snap. This map leads to the old mill on the edge of town. It's a nexus where the lines meet. If we move fast, we can stay ahead of whoever's hunting us. A sudden scrape echoes from the entrance above, followed by the click of boots on stone. The group exchanges a tense glance before Alex knocks over the radio to buy a heartbeat's delay. They spill into the narrow corridor, flashlights catching motes of dust that dance like restless spirits. Footsteps thunder behind them, growing closer, and Maya slams the heavy door shut, jamming it with her shoulder. Hearts racing, they burst into the moonlit alley beyond, the night air tasting of rain yet to fall. We are coming, Alex leads, guided by the soft green glow of bioluminescent moss circling a grated sewer cover. Helena shoves the journal through the bars, Maya's swift kick bending iron enough for them to slip through. Lucas drops last, turning to seal the hatch just as armored figures flood the alley, weapons trained on the disappearing grate. The tunnel swallows them in darkness, water dripping like distant thunder as the hunt continues above. In the hush, Maya exhales, voice fierce despite the damp chill. This isn't a local cult. It's a global network, resurrecting old projects in new forms. Alex presses his palm to the cold brick. We've touched their core. they'll trace every step. Helena retrieves the journal's cover, a symbol now etched in their minds, and gently places it on the damp ground. Our journey starts with these pages, but the story we found only scratches the surface. Lucas rests a hand on her shoulder, eyes steely. Then our next moves must be precise. The darkness will follow, but we'll be ready. They pressed on through the tunnel's damp hush, every footstep echoing like a heartbeat. Maya's eyes never left the tablet's screen as she muttered, "They're triangulating us. 3 different IPs scanning our position. They want to cut us off." Alex paused at each fork, hand on the cool brick, listening to whispers in the mortar. Something watches through the walls themselves. Lucas led the way, gripping a broken pipe like a weapon, his calm born of battlefields where enemies hid in shadows. Helena brought up the rear, clutching the journal as though it were their only guide. The grate they climbed through spat them into the back rooms of an abandoned library, its stacks sealed since the 90s. In the dusty basement, every shelf groaned under tomes on occult warfare, psychic experiments, and something called the archaic interface. One battered cassette recorder spun silently on a rotting desk. Lucas hit play. A cold, mechanical voice intoned, "Phase 1 complete. Subjects in motion. Intersection point, Millgate. Activate interpreters." Maya staggered back. They knew we'd come. This is all scripted. Helena rifled through the texts, her pale fingers tracing symbols identical to those in her journal. These rituals describe 4-dimensional perception used by covert orders in World War II and by mystics who tried to seal their power. Alex's voice trembled. What if we're unwitting agents of their resistance? What if we've just reawakened something best left buried? Before they could answer, lights snapped on overhead. The front door opened with a slow creak, revealing a tall figure in a black suit, face hidden by a gas mask scrawled with arcane runes. In his hand gleamed a tuning fork-like staff. A shuddering pulse rolled through their bodies, as if the air itself had turned to lead. Lucas let out a guttural shout. "Run!" They burst onto the rooftops of the old town center, helicopters droning far above, and drones weaving through the streetlights like moths. Maya yanked a makeshift jammer from her pack and flicked it on. "We've got 10 minutes, tops." Alex shoved open a rusted vent, and they dropped into the shell of WZTR, the long, silenced radio station. Murals of concentric circles and faded photographs covered the walls. Helena played a crackling 1943 broadcast, heard before in the library recorder, and recognized that metal-edged voice. They're using tech to send messages across time. They froze. The truth hammered in their chests. They were never simply fugitives. They were being led by someone or something that knew exactly where they'd run next. They pressed deeper into the silent corridors of WZTR, hearts still pounding like war drums. Lucas crouched by a shattered control panel, running his fingers over rusted switches. "We'll use their own station to send a message," he said, voice low. Maya's fingers flew across her phone as she rigged a patch into the old transmitter, while Alex and Helena set up the journal's map against the cracked wall, aligning ley lines with frequency curves. Outside, the drones circled like vultures, but their signal jam held. At the appointed hour, midnight, the ancient red on-air light flickered to life. Maya keyed the mic. A hush fell, as if the station itself leaned in. Then Alex spoke, calm but resolute. "This is Brookridge, calling to any who resist the Shadow Network. We've felt your hunts, seen your ghosts, and we will not be silenced." Behind him, the radio crackled, and for a moment, the vault of time collapsed. They heard the echoes of 1943 broadcasts, Dion Fortune's whispered incantations, distant cries from Montauk experiments. Suddenly, the static cleared as a new voice broke through, deep, warm, unmistakably human. "We hear you, and we stand with you." A pause, then rapid-fire confirmations from broken lines around the globe. Agents, mystics, even disillusioned soldiers, all pledging their solidarity. Lucas let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Helena's eyes glowed with fierce hope. "They're out there," Maya said, voice tight with wonder. "Real people fed up with the hidden war." Alex placed a hand on the journal's cover. "We've lit a spark. Now we ignite the resistance." As the broadcast faded into the night, the first step of their battle was done. But the larger war had only just begun. Above them, lights snapped off in the streets below, as the network scrambled to regain control. The darkness shivered in acknowledgement. The age of shadows was over, and the age of revelation had begun. They pressed deeper into WZTR's bowels, where plaster crumbled into dust and the air tasted of static. Maya hunched over an antique oscilloscope borrowed from the archives, tracing a jagged signal that pulsed like a heartbeat. "This waveform matches every occult broadcast we've recorded, across decades," she said, voice tight. Alex crouched beside her, flipping through annotated pages of the journal. "These are coordinates, not just symbols. They map the spread of their cells: London, São Paulo, Berlin." Lucas stood guard at the cracked doorway, peering into the darkness beyond the broken glass. "They use these phrases. Phase 1 complete. Phase 2 begins. Like clockwork," he observed. "They're not just monitoring us, they're orchestrating a global cadence." Helena guided his gaze back to the wall, where she'd projected the map overlay. "If we can intercept their next frequency at Millgate Foundry, we might snag their command channel." Maya glanced at her phone's live map, spin-out dots converging on the old foundry's location. "They've activated every signal jammer and drone within 10 miles. A tremor rattled the station's beams, as if to punctuate her words. Lucas wiped sweat from his brow. "Then we have to move, before they seal us in here." With one last look at the humming consoles, they slipped out a side exit, ghosting through back alleys toward Millgate. Every broken street lamp, every shuttered storefront seemed to watch them go, as if the town itself had grown silent in dread. The group, now bound by something far greater than chance, returned to the cabin in the woods where the strange equipment was first found. Tyler had deciphered more from the stolen hard drive: coordinates, encrypted communication logs, and a reference to something called Protocol Null. Emma noticed the same name recurring in her texts, a lost branch of esoteric Nazi research, believed to have vanished after the war. But the term wasn't just historical. It was active, recurring in files with recent timestamps, some even dated that week. Nate, hardened but disturbed, confessed to having heard whispers about this project during his years in covert ops. Protocol Null was rumored to be a failsafe, a psychic signal intended to reactivate dormant programs inside subjects who had been previously conditioned. It wasn't just surveillance or control, it was activation. Of what? He wasn't sure. They decided to follow the coordinates. It led them deep into the wilderness, past derelict Cold War listening posts and abandoned rail lines, until they arrived at what looked like an old observatory. But inside, the facility was anything but forgotten. New wires ran along the walls, glowing conduits pulsed with a quiet hum, and strange geometric diagrams were etched into the floor beneath their feet. At the center was a chair. Not a regular chair, but something designed to hold a human body perfectly still, encased in copper coils and breathing tubes. Emma's hand trembled as she read aloud the label etched onto the base. Subject Gate 7. Suddenly, the lights dimmed. The air vibrated with an unnatural frequency. Tyler's laptop, which had been scanning for signals, went blank. And then, a single tone, low and guttural, echoed through the room. Nate turned, weapon drawn. "We're not alone." They weren't. From the far end of the corridor, a figure stepped out. Not military, not civilian, something else. Wearing a tattered uniform with no insignia, eyes glowing faintly with a light that wasn't human. It stared at them silently. And then, as if some invisible line had been crossed, alarms began to scream. The team scrambled to escape, but the building was reacting, shifting, locking down. Tyler shouted, "It's not just a lab, it's a beacon. We turned it on." As the group fled into the night, chased by forces they couldn't name, one thing became clear. This wasn't the beginning of the mystery. It was the end of their normal lives. And somewhere, across the world, other beacons had started to hum. But that wasn't the end. It was only the signal for something far worse. But the real secret hasn't been uncovered yet. Subscribe, stay alert, and prepare yourself for part 2, when the line between the living and the forgotten finally breaks.